Kelle DeLuca. Why am I giggling?
Yeah, you are. I'm Nate Burgess.
Oh, God.
I am Sean Watson.
And somehow we are commanderin. Thanks for listening, everybody. We focus on the topics the community wants to hear about and talk to interesting people along the way, but never, ever talk about 3 banned topics: religion, politics, or Hearthstone. You can find us on the Book of Faces, Twitter, YouTube, Reddit, and mtgcast.com by searching for commanderin.mtg.podcast.
Oh, and iTunes.
Oh, and iTunes. Are we on iTunes?
We are
Maybe.
still on iTunes.
We'll find out.
Yeah, we'll find out.
When it airs, we'll find out.
We have a great show lined up for our listeners this week, don't we, gentlemen?
Mm-hmm.
We're going to talk about value black cards. We had a lot of requests for this, some of which may have been from the hosts.
One host in particular.
That one.
Yeah.
Yeah, me.
He's got a funny accent with lots of U's in it.
Oi! I'll reach through the internet and slash you.
Slash us?
Yeah. I'm the
Oi.
North London slasher. If you're a Mighty Boosh fan, you'll say, hey, he's ripping that joke off. Yeah, anyway.
Well, to all you Brits who are offended by Sean ripping off another fellow Brit, write to cast@commanderin.mtg.com and let us know. And we will make sure that Sean addresses each one of the hate mails we receive.
Or you can just tweet at Copain26.
True.
You can tweet, okay, Peter. The truth is, I've been catfishing you the whole time. I'm actually a German man named Gustav. So, what are we talking about this week, guys?
Well, this week we're talking about value black cards. Many of our listeners appreciate these episodes, and we've only done one so far, so it's time for a second one. And since we sort of did Demir and Rakdos heavy podcasts, we started with green, so go back and look that up. We may include a link to it in the show notes, but this time, since both of you are fans of black magic cards, and of course my first deck was a Mimeoplasm deck, I'm familiar with it as well, we figured we would do black. And Nate, of course, has done a bang-up job of organizing this episode. So,
Pip pip, old boy, good show.
But first, we do have news. And there are Commander 2015 spoilers out by the time we're recording.
Yes. Yes, there are. So, I presume we're going to do a full set review at some point. So, are we going to spoil a few of the cards today?
Yes, keeping in theme with our value black cards, we'll only do the black cards that have been spoiled so far. So it's not going to be very many. This is very early in the spoiler week for Commander 2015. Nate, you want to tee these up?
Okay. First up is Dread Summons X Black Sorcery. Each player puts the top X cards of his or her library into his or her graveyard. For each creature card put into a graveyard this way, you put a 2/2 black zombie creature token onto the battlefield tapped.
Oh my.
Yay!
I have a few decks that this goes into right now.
I've got one deck this really goes into. A certain mastermind of a certain Ravnican guild wants this card.
Oh, you think Lazav wants everyone to put cards into the graveyard with creatures?
Yeah. And produce me a bunch of
Options.
Jump blockers on the table that can be used for nefarious means. This is a brilliant card.
Wow, this works really well for Lazav, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. It's got some good flavour text as well. Did you have a nice nap? Said Liliana Vess.
You don't think Liliana Vess has a Texan accent?
No.
No, Avacyn's got a Texan accent. Yeehaw!
Avacyn.
Yeah. Avacyn. Howdy.
Yep.
Who wants it to be indestructibility boosting?
I think it's a little shameful that the best Texan accent we can muster is by the British guy. He's probably the best shot, too.
I'm actually quite a good... I found out when I was a young man that I'm actually a naturally very good marksman. I went to a shooting range when I was a teenager, and like the guy that ran the shooting range was incredibly impressed with my skills with a rifle. But I live in a country where guns are tragically banned. I know we don't like kill. Well, it's really hard to kill someone in this country, but
because of your natural indestructibility.
Yeah.
We just put up a wall of sort of blasé arrogance, and the bullets.
It's because of all the
us.
Viking invasions back in your history.
It's how they conquered the world.
I'm a good shot. So Dread Summons, what a card. Love it.
Yeah, that's quite good. Quite good.
And if you're in a decent black strategy, pumping stuff into your own graveyard is a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, this is all around good for most black strategies.
I think this might go into Jared, Golgari Lichlord, as well.
I think it's worth bringing up here that one of our guests, of course, your boss, the professor from the Tolarian Community College. Yes, don't forget to give him a weekly report. He's looking forward to all of the janitorial stories that you produce each week.
The drains are all blocked up with sigilled starfishes.
Is that what caused the flood?
It was what caused the flood, and I kept trying to move them, but they just kept telling me what my next spell was going to be, and yeah, eventually I just had to get some acidic slime and pour it right down the drain. It was a horrible mess. Yeah.
It's good to hear you're branching into green as well.
Well, we use it as a waste disposal product.
Right.
For mopping up fish poop.
Fish poop. Yes, once again, an abrupt segue. It's worth mentioning that the professor pointed out that eventually we may only be playing Commander with cards that were printed specifically for Commander products. And Dread Summons feels like one of those cards that if you're running black, you're probably running some sort of mill, and at the very least you're going to want additional tokens in black. And this is going to generate tokens and mills your opponents, and it's kind of brutal. Like, I don't see any reason not to play this in either of the zombie decks I built for our zombie specials, and I'm having trouble not playing this anywhere.
You think Mimeoplasm likes it too?
Yeah, Mimeoplasm loves it.
A deck that's not specifically... Yeah, Mimeoplasm loves that card with a burning passion.
Yeah.
I think it fits into black across the board of the format, so there aren't many black commanders, particularly ones that are black-blue or black-green or Sultai, that aren't going to want to run this effect. I think the Mardu-y stuff is probably going to not care about it. Black-red... Well, actually, no, that could go into a Lesher quite well as well.
Does really well.
Okay, I'll take that back. That is a powerhouse of a card for its colour.
Yeah. I mean, maybe, Zergo doesn't really care about this because Zergo's killing things before X gets big.
Yeah.
But really, a black-dominated deck just wants this card. Anyway, I'm not necessarily saying it's a bad thing yet. I'm just noting that it is, and it's also worth noting that among the cards that we aren't discussing is a Commander 2015 spoiler released by the Tolarian Community College. So, despite his disdain, he's still getting spoiler cards. So there you go. What's our next card here?
Deadly Tempest, named after Sir Artemis Deadly. 4 colorless, black, sorcery. Destroy all creatures. Each player loses life equal to the number of creatures he or she controlled that were destroyed this way. This might be my new favorite board wipe.
Screw you, token decks. Screw you. It's very powerful. It's going to blow out some games.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be a point where someone says, I Rise of the Dark Realms, or something where they just get a ton of creatures in play, but it doesn't have haste for some reason, and you just go, okay, let's go get my Deadly Tempest out of my deck, if it's not already in my hand, and cast it. Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it is.
Black is, in my opinion, nearly better than white for board wiping now. We'll discuss it more later on in the list, but...
Yeah.
If you compare the two as the primary board wipe colours, I think black may be starting to overtake white.
Yeah, it
Anyway.
could be.
Death to all.
White tends to have the cheaper board wipes, but I don't think that's going to hold up. I mean, you look at Languish
Does
as a
it,
board
though?
wipe as well. Yeah,
I'm not
I
sure
know,
that
right?
White does have the cheaper board wipes anymore. I mean, there's the two obvious ones, Wrath and Day of Judgment, but we've got Damnation in black and Toxic Deluge, which we'll talk about them in a bit anyway.
Yeah, we will. And before we move on, while we've been setting up to record, they spoiled a new card called Bastion Protector, which is a white card. I think you gents will appreciate this, but again, this is another white card that just goes right into any deck that's playing white. I know, it's a white card. So Bastion Protector is 2 and a white. It's a 3/3 human soldier. So that fits into all sorts of decks, and it has a special ability that says, commander creatures you control get +2/+2 and have indestructible. Yep, I know it. I'm starting to come around to the professor's point of view, but
Yeah, I think maybe one new expansion every 2 years, like Modern Masters might be a better pace.
yeah,
There comes a point where everyone's just playing for commander damage decks, isn't it?
yeah. I think so. Even if you're not playing a Voltron commander, this guy is still useful, or a woman. Sorry, is still useful.
Yeah,
This
it's
card.
definitely a lady.
I've been advocating that they simply reprint, or when they print commander cards, that they print them as foils. And I think we may be due for another arsenal type in order to prevent the kind of creep that we're seeing with this, or at least the frequency of the creep that we're seeing.
Yeah,
This is hard not to play in any deck that uses white.
yeah. I don't know, if you really don't... I mean, you wouldn't run it in a one of the White Gods decks, would you? But you'd run it in Rafik, you'd run it in Sigarda.
You'd run it.
Should be Hex.
So Marath would use it, I think. I'd have to see. Derevi can use it.
I can think of a white commander you wouldn't use it on. Avacyn.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
It's the only one I could think of.
Zergo.
Yeah, well, you might still with Zergo, because it makes him indestructible outside of your own turn, and +2/+2 is considerable boost to his toughness.
Yeah, this is like totem armor for Zergo.
Yeah, that's awesome. So anyway, new spoilers. We will be doing a full set review when the whole list gets spoiled. So
Right.
and we are aware people hear this. There are a load more spoilers out there, and you'll have your own opinions. We're very excited, but we don't want to I was going to use a rude phrase. Then we don't want to go too early on it. We want to see everything in full delicious context.
And probably by the time this airs, the spoilers will have just been completed anyway. We only have 1 week of Commander 2015 spoilers.
Yes.
This week we have a special, The Watch List.
The watch list.
And as a reminder, Nate, do you want to remind everybody what it is that puts a card on our watch list? It's not necessarily just ban-worthy cards, is it?
No, it's just something that warps the meta and makes every other player in your meta adjust their decks to that card.
Right.
Very well said, sir. Very well said.
And what do we have on the watch list this week?
Ooh, can I?
You do have a special affinity for this card, don't you?
Yeah, I do have a special love for this card. This week's watch list is Necropotence. So Necropotence is a black enchantment, which costs 3 black to cast. You skip your draw step. I know, not very good, is it?
No, that's terrible.
That is terrible. Instead, you can pay 0 mana to pay 1 life, set a card aside from the top of your library. In your end step, put any card set aside this way into your hand.
But how can that be good? Because Commander generally doesn't use instants, and of course that means that you'll be setting up your on your opponent's, or you'll be ready on your opponent's turn with all of those cards that you pull into your hand.
There's a few things I would disagree with in your statement, Mr. DeLuca.
Oh,
You say Commander doesn't use instants?
not very much. I mean, we're not we're not a trick-heavy format, are we?
No, but black is a removal-heavy colour. So what you're looking for with this, because obviously you won't get the cards till the end of your turn, or to a wheel of the table. But what that allows you to do is to say, I'm going to play out my hand. A lot like Grizzlebrand when we spoke about him a couple of weeks ago. Play out my hand and then draw back up to 7 for the next turn and hold your hand back. We have discussed this card at some length in last week's episode, so we're not going to go too deep into this one,
right.
Listeners. I highly recommend you go back and listen to the Halloween Bonanza episode and that week's watch list where we spoke about Grizzlebrand, Necropotence, and Yawgmoth's Bargain, which is the broken version of Necropotence, I think. What's your opinion, chat?
And just to be clear, Yawgmoth's Bargain is banned in Commander.
It is. It's double the casting cost, but it allows you to... The cards hit your hand at instant speed, which means you can just hunt the problem you want. You've got 40 life to go digging for the solution to any problem you want. And black has a billion ways of gaining you a ton of life very quickly to replenish your life stocks.
I admit, Necropotence was the first card I really dug out of my collection when I started playing again, because Potence is just so good. And I didn't play it much back in the day, but that was because I was stupid. In Commander, it's an excellent card. The strategies for using it, I play it very conservatively, and you guys have kind of teased me about this. When I play it, I usually only draw up to, make sure that I put up to 8 cards in hand, because of course you put the cards into your hand before the cleanup step, which means you have to discard cards if you have more than 7. Sorry, you have to discard if you're holding more than 7 cards in your hand by then. So, I play conservatively. I expect to toss a land or 2, and so I'll only usually draw up to 8 or 9 cards and then discard lands. Do you guys use it differently? Like,
I have used it to really draw into my deck before when I've done something like an Exsanguinate or a Grey Merchant of Asphodel or something big to gain me life. So I'm on a lot of life, and I just need that one card to win the game. So I'll sit and go, I'll draw 30, find what I need, or a tutor, because there's normally tutors in the deck. If you don't draw what you need out of those 30 cards, then go get it next turn. What it does do is paint a massive target on your face for a wheel of the table. We go, look what I just picked my hand out of the top 30 cards in my library. People tend to get, a good group of players should go, we need to deal with him fast.
Yeah, if you're playing any sort of a life gain strategy, it almost becomes routine to gain life and then essentially set that many cards aside. It's also worth noting that put the cards into your hand at the beginning of your next end step does not depend on Necropotence being out.
No, we've had this conversation before. So if you want to be quite abusive with this card, pair it with Venza's Journal, which will allow you to have no maximum hand size, and during your upkeep you gain life equal to the number of cards in your hand.
Yeah, that's a good combination.
Yeah, so draw X cards, gain that life back, and after the table wheels. It's fun times.
So, Nate, do you have any last comments on Necropotence? You've been somewhat quiet while Sean and I indulge ourselves on Necropotence.
Yeah, I put it in some decks. I only really use it to dig in emergencies, though, or just to fill out my hand.
Well, okay then. And so that is our watch list. I don't think anybody here believes it should be banned. But again, when Necropotence hits the table, it's often people start trying to find ways to remove it.
Yeah. Any card that in its history has had an entire season of the Pro Tour named after it,
right,
should be given respect.
Indeed. All right.
And it's an $8 card at this point. Right?
Yeah, so it's
come down a bit actually.
It's just within our range, And that brings us to our main topic. So Necropotence, technically, by our rules, a value card, and certainly belongs on our list. So, Nate, what are the rules for our value series?
Well, these are Sean's rules. These aren't my rules. Sean's rules are no cards over $10 on TCG Player Mid. And this is the point where I laugh at how a $10 limit is being considered by some as value. So all of my cards are going to be less than $1.
Peasant.
Yeah, I think it's because of the tradition of royalty that Sean perpetuates.
My butler, Swivington, brings me my value black cards on a silver platter, giving to me one by one, quadruple sleeved with the royal emblem stamped on the back of the sleeves. The House of Windsor.
And Nate, you live the swanky lifestyle of a professional podcaster now. $10. I mean, come on. This is just pocket change, isn't it?
Well, I mean, do you really want to get into this discussion? Because there's a big suspension of disbelief to consider that a piece of cardboard is worth $10. I could go deeper, but we might want to edit all of this out.
No, you know what we should do? This is definitely a discussion we should have Jason back on for.
Yes, I agree.
Whether or not this portion of it is edited, and I kind of think it shouldn't be. It's actually good radio. Good podcasting? What is that? What is our
Podio?
medium? Yeah, Podio. Podio.
It might as well be radio.
Yeah.
Oh, right in the pods.
I think we should definitely have Jason on and talk about the absurdity that a piece of cardboard would be worth $10, $100, $1,000, right?
Well, it's because a subset of the population, a relatively small subset, but large enough, considers that worth it, and they are willing to trade for that amount.
Yeah, that's true.
Any object is only as valuable as people are willing to pay for it, ultimately. So, let's look at Snapcaster Mage, which is allegedly sharp in price because certain larger gaming stores or online gaming stores bought all the copies they could find up and then tried to jack the price up. And Jace Vryn's Prodigy as well. One person apparently bought all the copies they could find, tried to jack it up. If nobody bought those copies at that price would come back down. They're not just going to sit on a big box of Jaces or Snapcasters going, well, look, I've got 2/3 of these that exist in the world.
So I would suggest that we either talk about it now and make that the topic of this episode, or hold it for a future episode.
Let's hold it. Let's hold it. I think $10 is reasonable, and all three of us are picks, which you'll hear in a second. None of us go more than, well, I'm the most expensive at just under $15.
Yeah, you are.
So, you're talking about a selection of cards that you can get for less than $15.
Yeah. And, I agree. Even though my selects are actually way cheaper than that, I believe that $10 is an appropriate amount or is an acceptable amount to spend on a card in Commander. Because you think about each deck is sort of like a set of clubs or something, basically it's like a set of equipment for one of your hobbies, whether you are a musician or a miniatures gamer or even a role player who purchases role-playing books. You're spending
a fisherman, right? Bowling.
You're spending hundreds of dollars on your equipment, and the analogies break down because of the wide variety of subjects we just talked about there. But a $10 card in a deck that probably costs somewhere between $100 and $200, sure, that's your star. And that's Necropotence. Potence, for example, is a star in a deck. Demonic Tutor, even Vampiric Tutor, which is a little bit more expensive. These are... I have trouble saying, recommending people do not purchase those, but there are alternatives, of course, and you're sacrificing speed in most cases, or really efficiency. But a $10 limit is okay. I just tried to keep it lower this time.
Yeah.
So
I couldn't keep it lower because black is my baby as
Yeah.
far as a single colour goes, and I just had to choose.
This is Sean's episode.
Yeah, basically this is
Hello.
Sean's episode. So Sean, since it is your episode, why don't you tell us what your first card is? And also, I do believe it's the most expensive card.
I believe it is. So my first card, this is a massively underrated card in Commander, probably because it's got triple black in its casting cost, but it is Massacre Worm. That's 3 and 3 black, so 6 CMC for a creature worm. It's a 6/5. Here's the goodies though. When Massacre Worm enters the battlefield, creatures your opponents control get -2/-2 until the end of turn. And whenever a creature an opponent controls is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, that player loses 2 life. That is a shot to the face for so many decks. Like if they've got a whole host of goblins out, or elf tokens, or weenies, you can drop that in and do some major damage, if not kill someone, for 6 mana. It means that opponents that are doing, and this comes up in my playgroup more, opponents that are doing stuff which involve like sacrifice loops can't do it because they're going to take tons of damage as they do it. I played a game recently with a Massacre Worm where someone had a Taser Orzhov Scion on the table and was doing the loops with the creatures to keep exiling stuff. So I dropped a Massacre Worm, equipped boots on lightning greaves onto him so he couldn't get exiled himself, but the Taser player just couldn't do anything because every time they wanted to do Taser's exile effect, they were losing effectively between 6 and 12 life, depending on how many spirits they're meant to be putting on the table. It does a lot. It does a lot of work. But yeah,
Yeah, it does.
have you guys had an experience with the worm? I don't think it's been printed in anything other than New Phyrexia. I might be entirely wrong on that though.
No, I think you're right. Let's look it up. Looking up stuff on the internet. Doo-doo.
Everyone loves people looking at
Yes.
Gatherer and the podcast.
I think you're right, Sean. It's Mirrodin Besieged Phyrexian card.
Sorry, Phil.
It's a mythic rare from Mirrodin Besieged, and it is a Phyrexian card. So
Sorry, Phil. Sorry.
yeah, not really
I
acceptable.
didn't mean to offend you and your family. Sorry about that. No, the card is currently $6.25 on TCG. I think it's worth it. Some might say that's a little bit pricey for that effect, but it can drop onto a table and wreck a table. Absolutely wreck a table.
Oh, the prices the prices in the show notes I'm listing are by MTG price, the buy now button.
Oh, okay, there you go. So it's an MTG price at $6.25, which is fairly close to TCG mid, which I could check, but I'm not going to. But they're all very similar. Yeah. So Massacre Worm, go massacre people with your giant toothed bloop of death.
You were, from my perspective, roboting right at that moment, and so I wasn't sure what you said, but I knew it was vulgar.
Oh, you'll hear it in the
I heard
playback. It's like Pinhead's bloop came to life and tried to kill the table.
All right, so as our most expensive card, we spent a lot of time on that. The next one, Nate, you should roll with. What's your top 5? What's your number 5, rather?
Okay, my number 5 is Fleshbag Marauder, 2 black. Creature Zombie Warrior, 3/1. Who cares? When Fleshbag Marauder enters the battlefield, each player sacrifices a creature. Ha ha ha.
That's so good.
49 cents. Ha 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 ha.
Yeah, Fleshbag's awesome. And just reprinted. Yeah, reprinted in the Dual Deck Speed versus Cunning, and also in Origins most recently. And yeah, it's the one in Origins. That's still, holy crap. It says, sorry, holy smokes. The shipping on this is ridiculous. And that's how I think they're keeping the price up, the sellers. But it's 33 cents plus $1.99 shipping for the near mint version of Fleshbag. Yeah, and this may be because it's reading that I'm in Japan, so
Yeah, probably gonna chuck that price up. It was also reprinted in Khans of Tarkir, but they put a misprint on it. They called it Merciless Executioner.
Which happens to be my number 5 card, so we'll be skipping my option. And yeah, so Merciless Executioner is the 19-cent version. I guess people haven't caught on that it's the identical card.
But it's orcs. Who needs orcs?
Nobody yet. I guess that's the big difference. It is a zombie, and so Fleshbag can stay out if you've also already got a zombie token on the field, or something that has a death trigger.
There was a third sort of reprint of this card in one of the Ravnica blocks called Slum Reaper. It was slightly higher CMC, but it was a 4-2.
That's a horror.
3-1. It is a horror, yeah.
It's a horror, yep.
So, as far as Orc Tribal, you have Zergo maybe as the commander, but there's not enough Orc support in the tribe, is there?
No, there really isn't.
No, orcs have just come back, haven't they? They were missing from the lore for a long time.
Yeah, in the Tarkir block they came back, of course, but they didn't come back strong enough, I think, to do a real proper Orc Tribal deck. Oh well.
No.
And of course, all the old orcs.
They were more tied into
trashed.
warriors.
So orcs and werewolves are still on the shelf.
I think
and starfish
orcs as a sub-tribe of warriors.
And rabbit beasts.
Rabbit beasts.
All right, Sean, what's your number 4 card?
My number 4 card is a doozy. It is Erebos, God of the Dead.
Mm-hmm.
He's a 3-1 black legendary enchantment creature god. He is indestructible. As long as your devotion to black is less than 5, Erebos isn't a creature. Devotion is black pips on the table. Your opponents cannot gain life, and you can pay 1 in the black to pay 2 life and draw a card.
Yep.
So.
And he's 379. Is he all rotated out?
He is all rotated out. He actually hasn't dropped much. He wasn't very expensive even when Theros was in. He wasn't getting played a lot. That's great. Your opponents can't gain life is a really powerful ability, especially in a format where Aloro Ageless Aesthetic is the most played commander.
Yeah. That really puts the brakes on. Now, of course, we have commander damage, which sort of mitigates life gain, but still, it's an awfully nice cushion when you're facing off against a token deck. And if your opponent or any opponent plays Erebos, all of a sudden the pressure's on. And the greed effect is nice.
Yeah, pay 2 life, draw a card. So it's 1 more mana than greed. Greed is an enchantment that does pay 1 black, pay 2 life, draw a card. But it doesn't have all the other cool stuff Erebos does. Mm-hmm. And isn't indestructible. And can't turn into a 5/7 creature to punch people in the face. Erebos is great.
Yeah, it is great. All right. So one of the reasons he was great was actually Nate's next card, isn't it? Mono Black Devotion was a thing. Still is.
Devotion? Who cares about how many black pips you have on the field? Except Grey Merchant of Asphodel for
Gary cares.
3. Black. He's got 2 black pips himself. He's a creature zombie. We talked about him last episode, or maybe a couple of episodes ago. He's a 2/4. Anyway, whenever Grey Merchant of Asphodel enters the battlefield, each opponent loses X life, where X is your devotion to black. You gain life equal to the life lost this way. Gain it. 19 cents.
Yeah, 19 cents. And that's up.
He's too good. I think his card existing is one of the main reasons that Kokosho got unbanned.
Yeah, because you'd have to ban this common to keep up with it.
Yeah.
I mean,
this common is better than Kokosho.
Yeah, this common has won many, many games for me.
I've lost. I lost at PTQ for Theros, and Theros block PTQ to Grey Merchants all weekend. Nearly every game I was playing Mono Blue Devotion. Nearly every game I lost. I came out of a winning record in the end, but nearly every game I lost to a Gary.
Wow.
This crappy common that just went, hi.
Yeah. Right, 5 mana for a 2/4. Who would pay for that, right? And turns out everybody.
In Pauper EDH, he's my commander.
Oh, yeah, of course he would be.
Yeah. Why wouldn't you have him?
And don't worry, folks, we will have an episode on Pauper EDH. But while we're on the topic of Gary, friend of the show, Nick Garigoski, how's that? Whoa. Nick Jaragoski posted a Planeswalker version of Gary, which Mateus, who is at Pink Mana Matt, or taps for Pink Mana, then put in a card frame. And we'll repost that picture, hopefully with permission, and if not, without permission. How's that?
Wah ha ha! Take that, Gary Gygax.
And the Planeswalker version is a lot of fun. It might be a little bit overpowered, and you probably don't want to drop it and experiment with it, but it's very fun. So thank you, Nick, for coming up with the Planeswalker, and Mateus for putting it on the Planeswalker card frame.
We'll put him out there so viewers can see him.
Yep, absolutely. My number 4 card actually goes very well with any kind of a Gary recursion or any sort of recursion, really, because that implies sacrifice, and of course Merciless Executioner and Fleshbag play well with it. It's Dictate of Erebos.
Mm-hmm.
Dun dun dun. It's an enchantment, 3 in black, has flash, and it just says something. It's very simple, it's innocuous, you can ignore it if you don't really play against black a lot. It's whenever a creature you control dies, each opponent sacrifices a creature. This is great. When a one-sided board wipe occurs, you just flash this out. If somebody is getting all shooty with spot removal, you flash this out. This pretty much goes in any black deck because it kind of puts the kibosh on people killing your creatures. It's great. And then, of course, you help them out by killing your own creatures.
Okay, important question. What card is this essentially a reprint of?
This is a reprint of the much more expensive Grave Pact.
Yeah, my next follow-up question was going to be, how much is Dictate?
Dictate at the moment is about $1.40, $1.20. And
how much is Grave Pact?
Grave Pact. Grave Pact is, currently, the 9th edition, which means white border, everybody, is $9 plus shipping.
Uh-huh.
Grave Pact was reprinted most recently in the original Commander set, and that's $8 plus shipping. So I mean, and there's cheaper versions, the 10th edition and so forth. Basically, if you want white border, you can pay a little bit less, but otherwise this is about a $10 card.
Yeah, so Dictate is just that good, and it's only going to go up in value. It's gone up from like a 50-cent card to, what did you say, $1.49?
About $1.40.
And that's been post-rotation. Just to give you an idea of how many people are getting turned onto this card. Yeah,
it looks like it ran through its spike in July, where it went from about 70-80 cents to it jumped up to $2 at first, and now has come down to, wow, it's actually a little bit higher, like $1.50. So pick up your Dictates now, folks. We know it's not going to be reprinted except in special edition sets, or what are they in supplemental sets. That's it, because it's themed to Theros, and so we can hope for a functional reprint and something that's a lot more, and it'll be named something a lot more reprintable. But otherwise, we're done. We're never going to see this card printed again. Woo.
No, and in any black deck that you can build actually on quite a good cheap budget that relies on sacrifice effects, this just gives you value town on every creature you sacrifice, because it essentially kills, better than kill, because it kills indestructible creatures, something each opponent has at the same time. It can become very oppressive. Your opponents sit and go, well, there's no point in me playing creatures because it's just going to sack something off and make me sacrifice it.
That's right. It shuts many a deck down. And speaking of cards that play well with it, goodness gracious, your next card really does, doesn't it?
I didn't even think of it. We are synergizing well together, guys, with our choices. People are going to think we've planned this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
card.
The truth is, we didn't actually plan our card selections. I think we just tend to play black the way
it was intended.
The way Richard intended us to.
So, well, before I quickly read the card, black is for many years I thought I was like a blue player. Now, obviously I'm a Dimir, but what I realise is I'm actually pretty much a black player who likes to play with blue and dare I say green occasionally as well. But black's my thing. And what is black if it is not without tutor? So, I'm not picking any of the super chewy things. I'm picking something very new, an imprint, Sidisi Undead Vizier.
Mm-hmm.
3 and 2 black for a legendary creature, Zombie Naga, Death Touch. So 4/6 with Death Touch and Exploit. So Exploit is a mechanic from the Tarkir block. When this creature enters the battlefield, you may sacrifice a creature. And if you exploit something, you may search your library for a card, put that card into your hand, and shuffle your library. So Sidisi can exploit herself if you don't have something like a token or anything to kill with it. The reason I prefer this to a lot of other tutor spells, just for out sorcery tutors, is it plays into black's other primary strategies so well. You're going to put another creature into your graveyard, which allows you to recur it easier in black. So if you put Sidisi in, you can actually recur Sidisi and then get that tutor loop going over and over again in subsequent turns. She's got Death Touch, which is... everyone loves Death Touch, don't they?
Indeed.
Yep. She's 5 mana, which is a little expensive for a tutor effect, but the tutors that are sort of getting under 4 mana start to get quite expensive or aren't very good. So Beseech the Queen's under 4 mana, but is limited in the amount of lands you have out. Demonic Tutor is, you're looking at least is it $12 card, something like that, for a D-Choots, as it was amusingly called by Jimmy Wong recently.
It's a pretty expensive card. The older versions, including the revised version, it's really, really pricing. I think you cannot find a near mint version for $12 anymore.
No, I was lucky to get some through luck than judgment. But Sidisi, how much is Sidisi at the moment?
About $1 less. Much less, isn't she?
$1.17.
Yeah, that's true.
She's currently at.
Yeah, she's a great card. I mean, the exploit mechanic is wonderful. It plays very well with most of what black is doing, and I mean, this is the kind of card where you flash in Dictate of Erebos at the end of your opponent's turn, and then the next turn you exploit with Sidisi for fun and hijinks.
Which, will kill 3 creatures, sacrifice 3 creatures your opponents control in a 4-player game, plus allow you to tutor a card for 5 mana.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Very nice.
There's another card called Runescarred Demon, which is a 7 to cast 6/6 Flying Demon that just when it enters the battlefield you can tutor. The reason I picked this over the Runescar is more because of the budget, because Runescar's getting a little bit pricey nowadays.
Yeah, that's one that can be reprinted pretty easily. I bet we see that. In a set, in an upcoming set. So, Nate, what is your third card?
Well, on the same subject, before we move on.
Sure.
From my personal philosophy, I've been removing tutors from all of my decks. I mean, I still have Sterling Grove, but I mainly have it for the protection of the rest of my enchantments. So I'm going to challenge Sean to try to build a deck that doesn't have any tutors in it. Because
I accept that challenge.
Most of my decks do not have any tutors in it.
My Crash the Blood Braided deck has 0 tutors.
All right, then.
So I take your challenge and have already done it. So.
All right, then.
Yeah.
All right, then.
It's I really like Sidisi, though. I've been doing the same thing where I kind of reduce my tutor count because I went really tutor heavy like most of us did. And I've been reducing my tutor count, and Sidisi doesn't really feel like a tutor, even though I know she is.
When we were speaking to Sheldon way back, and we would talk briefly about tutors, and I, in reference to the Tuck rule, I think, said that I'd actually been removing tutors from certain decks because the Tuck rule's gone, so I didn't need it as much. We had quite a vehement response from some listeners about that, saying, "Why would you ever remove tutors? I've never, in any of my Magic playing years, ever heard such nonsense." And wow, people really love their tutors, don't they?
Yeah, they do.
It's part of the 75% theory, I guess. If you can remove tutors from your deck and replace them with more cards that have synergy with the rest of your cards, then you have a more interesting play experience because you're not depending on a specific card in your deck.
Okay, so I agree with you, and I think Sidisi is a tutor that also plays into the synergy of Black's philosophy. The exploit mechanic is so Black, and it was also printed on blue cards as well, exploit.
And that's what I mean. The exploit mechanic, and it's why I don't think of Sidisi as a tutor per se, even though she obviously is, because she facilitates so much. She's a big body with death touch, which is sort of overkill, but that's okay. And she tutors, which is a wonderful, wonderful effect. But that exploit mechanic is pretty good. I might even play her, maybe not for 5 mana, but I might even play her as is without the tutor effect, just because of the exploit. Now she'd need something else because they're better exploits at that point, but still, good card.
So moving on to my number 3 card is Bloodgift Demon. He's 3 black creature demon, 5/4, flying, of course. But hey, at the beginning of your upkeep, target player, who's probably you, draws a card and loses 1 life.
Wow, that's pretty
It's
good.
not always you.
So this is a 5/4 body that flies with Phyrexian Arena stamped onto it.
For 5 mana.
For 5 mana, yep.
Bargain.
Yeah, that's a good deal. Especially because it's not an actual Phyrexian card.
35 cents.
35 cents of pure win.
Yeah.
We were playing a game that I can't remember whether you were playing it, Nate. We were playing a game recently. In fact, you might have even been the victim of it, where me and listener Link at Moxbant were playing, and I took someone down to 1 life, and Link killed them with his Bloodgift Demon trigger.
That's great. That's great. I've always wanted to see that. Good work, Link. That's cool.
Yeah, I chuckled. Was it you, Nate, who did that too?
No, I didn't do that.
It was you or Pete. You or listener Pete. It must have been listener Pete. It was like, do you want to draw a card? I think you do. There you go. Oh, you're dead. What a shame. Quality.
Yeah, and this, let's see.
So how much is Phyrexian Arena? Which is just what that card does, but on an enchantment.
Yeah, Phyrexian Arena is pretty pricey. That's another one that's up around the $10 range.
And that's been printed a bunch of times as well.
Yeah. And this one really facilitates. So does Bloodgift put the card into your hand? Let me double check here.
Bloodgift does put the card into your hand, yeah.
No, you draw
a card.
Yeah. So this really facilitates Alhammarret's Archive, which I think we're going to see a lot more of too. Right, and because that reads, the relevant part is if you would draw a card except the first one you draw in each of your draw steps, draw 2 cards instead. So for Bloodgift, with the Alhammarret's Archive out, Bloodgift is getting you 2 cards for 1 life.
Alhammarret's Archive, I know we're not talking artifacts, but I think that is going to creep up because it's a mythic from a set that's not been opened very much and is very, very relevant in many Commander decks.
Yeah, I think we've seen most of the archives enter circulation that are going to be in Circ, and this one, of course, its pre-release open was sky high, but now it's down to about $3. So
Nate, is are you picking Bloodgift over Phyrexian Arena purely because of the price?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, it's a fantastic card. 5/4 flyer for 5 is fairly good anyway, but card advantage is brilliant.
Yeah, it's a pretty good card. So, my number 3 card is Dauthi Embrace. It's an enchantment for 2 and a black, and the enchantment simply reads: black, target creature gains shadow until end of turn, which effectively makes it unblockable except by creatures with shadow. Very useful card. It's only 50 cents. I picked up a couple of these in particular when I was doing Zergo research, and if you're running a Voltron commander in black or just want to get creatures in, This is a great card to have.
Yeah, that deck should be in my Vela the Nightclad deck.
Yeah,
That card, sorry, should be in that deck.
Yeah. All right.
What about if I'm using my Shadow Tribal deck, Phil?
Yeah. Well, no, I don't think so. Unless you're going to help your opponents out. Shadow Tribal. Okay. Let's move along to your number 2 pick, because Douthie Embrace is pretty self-explanatory.
My number 2 is a classic in black. I won't talk about it for too long, because we have spoken about it before, but it's Living Death. 3 and 2 black for a sorcery. Each player exiles all creature cards from their graveyard, then sacrifices all creatures they control, then put all the cards they exiled into their graveyard onto the battlefield. So what it essentially does is it swaps the creatures in your graveyard with the creatures in play, and they do a little switcheroo. You have to stack this in your favour, but all that self-milling stuff and all the stuff you've been sacrificing for advantage suddenly goes, hey, I'm here. And this card's was quite expensive. It's reprinted quite a lot lately, so it's come down to about $1.70-ish, $1.67 currently. And I won a game with this. Just the last game I played in paper, I won with this. So someone hit a Living Death, wasn't mine, and they hadn't checked my graveyard and realised I had a Grey Merchant of Asphodel in my mono black deck graveyard.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it just came out and hit everyone for like 15 pips and put me on 45 and killed 2 other players.
So that's when you play Gather Specimens, right?
Specimen's a great card. So the rule of that, as Nate has mentioned in the former episode, is remember to check your opponent's graveyards, kids. Remember to check your opponent's graveyards.
Yeah.
Anything quick to mention on Living Death?
No, it's a pretty good card. I like it.
$1.67 of utter win.
Yeah, it's underrated, definitely. For $1.70 for this kind of card, this is wonderful.
Because it exiles all creatures. It's sacrifice as well, so it will get rid of indestructible creatures.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Just remember, the caution is not only look at what's in your opponent's graveyard, but try to make sure their graveyard is exiled before you cast this.
Yeah, you do.
But if only someone had a card that would exile people's graveyards on their list.
All right, and this next card plays well with Living Death. Nate, what's your number 2?
Sepulchral Primordial 5 black 5 black creature avatar 5/4 intimidate whatever. When Sepulchral Primordial enters the battlefield, for each opponent you may put up to 1 target creature card from that player's graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. 29 cents.
Yeah, I've won many games of that card. Many games.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's heavy duty recursion in black. Who loves that?
It's very, very good in a Dimir strategy where you're running clones. You hit the Sepulchral Primordial, grab some creatures, clone the Sepulchral Primordial, clone some more creatures, reanimate some more creatures. Normally, by the time you're hitting 7 mana and stuff, people have got some pretty tasty enter the battlefield effects in their graveyards. So you can reuse all of them. I've seen this get cast to bring back someone else's Diluvian Primordial that recast a Rite of Replication, which hits Sepulchral Primordial, which pulled out, and the chain goes on and on and on.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. And if it gets strapped to a Mimic Vat, oh my god.
Yeah. If that happens, somebody has made an error.
Yes.
So
that's an amazing pick, Nate, and the only reason it wasn't on probably my top spot is you'd already got it rated very highly. It's so good.
Yeah, my next card plays well with it too, because you can choose a creature from your opponent's battlefield to then bring back with Sepulchral Primordial, and so mine is Gatekeeper of Malakir for only black, which is really black, because he has kicker. It's a vampire warrior for 2/2. It has kicker black, and when Gatekeeper of Malakir enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, target player sacrifices a creature. So you can't quite pick your opponent's creature, but it's close.
He is in my Vampire Tribal deck. What was in it when I had that deck. You could cast him, target yourself, sacrificing himself to recur, and then trigger your Dictator Erebos / Grave Pact.
Yeah, he's so useful. And that probably is why his, as an uncommon card, it's $1.24. So a little bit pricey, but absolutely worth it. So now we're getting into the top tiers, aren't we? We're talking about our number one cards, and Sean, it's your turn. So what's your number one card?
Okay, so my number one is a slightly odd choice. I've picked it because of what it is like rather than what it is. So my number one card is Crux of Fate, which is 3 and 2 black for a sorcery. Choose one, destroy all dragon creatures, or destroy all non-dragon creatures. So this is as close to Damnation you're going to get. Damnation is just a reprint of Wrath of God, but in black. So it's 2 and 2 black for destroy all creatures in play. They can't be regenerated. But it's how many? $30-$40? This Crux of Fate is $1.49. It costs 1 colourless mana more to cast. If someone's playing with a lot of dragons, it could be a problem, or it could act as a one-sided wipe to just wipe that player's board state out. I don't know why people don't mention it in the top tier of black board wipes. It's so close to being Damnation in our format, because our format doesn't care so much about a CMC shift of 1 that it befuddles me why people don't play this card.
I think because that choice scares people, right? Like, what if my opponent has dragons out?
Well, if you play in a meta that has lots of dragons in it, and black doesn't do dragons very well. If you play in a meta that has lots of dragons in it, it's even more win, because you can just wipe all their creatures and not your own. Yeah,
good card. I think I've seen Nate play it more than anybody else. I know that we all tend to play it. It's in my Scion deck, for example.
It's very beautiful in foil as well. If you can get hold of a foil one, it's gorgeous.
Oh yes, I happen to have one, I think.
Yeah, so do
I. All right, so we'll move on to Nate's number one card.
So this is a 32-cent card. It goes very well with Urborg, Tomb of Yawgmoth, which is not a value black card, but if you're playing mono black, regardless. Nightmare Incursion, 5 and a black. Sorcery, search target player's library for up to X cards, where X is the number of swamps you control. And then remove them from the game. Then that player shuffles their library.
That's fantastic.
So exiles them nowadays.
Yep. Exile. I'm going to search your library. I'm going to look for problems, and I'm going to exile them from the game.
Well, I presume, Nate, you consult your paper copy of the commanderin.podcast's watch list and just exile all those cards, yeah?
When I play it on you, that one time, yeah.
Is that something
That's
we should
what I
have?
did.
Do you think we should create a PDF of our watch list?
Handy. Could have like a picture of Nate frowning, Bill frowning, me going, "That's fine, just do that. Yeah, that's a great card.
Yeah.
Why would you not play that?"
This card.
Nightmare Incursion's brutal.
It is. It really is brutal. We don't see a lot of it played either. I think I've only seen you guys even play it once, even though I know you've played it a few more times than that.
It goes in the same decks as Sadistic Sacrament or Denying Wind.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. Very quickly, those extraction effects, which is what that is, where you search someone's library and stuff and remove exile stuff from the game before it's ever been cast, are surprisingly powerful. Even the ones that look like they're not very good because they will only hit one cardinal copies of it, they're still pretty good to one-for-one someone's bomb out of their deck.
Yeah, it is.
Get rid of that Prophet of Crufix is before it hits the table was better than getting rid of it when it does hit the table.
Yeah, yep, that's very true. So my number one card is it's not very splashy. It's sort of an underrated. It definitely is an underrated card. It is Viscera Seer for 1 black. It's a vampire wizard for 1/1. Really lame, dies to everything. Stiff breezes, as it were. But sacrifice a creature, scry 1. So it's awfully nice. If it's out and your opponent board wipes, you can instant speed sacrifice all your creatures in response. You're not saving your creatures, but what you are doing is immediately, effectively digging through your deck to find something that will answer the new board state. Your opponent tries to steal a creature, they better be stealing Viscera Seer because, or even if they do, you're still going to sacrifice a creature and scry 1. Scry underrated, Viscera Seer equally underrated. It's also a free sack outlet, so if you've got a sack engine going, this is a card that you want to play.
Yeah, if you've got a meta where people, the red players in particular, are playing a lot of threat and effects, insurrection, that sort of thing, sacrifice outlets are invaluable because someone says, I'm going to steal all the creatures. You're like, well, I'm going to sacrifice all mine.
Yeah. This goes right up there with Ashnod's Altar. Right, if you're playing a sack engine, you put the Viscera Seer and Ashnod's Altar in. Viscera Seer if you're playing black, but of course we'll assume you are. Ashnod's Altar.
There's another altar as well, Phil, isn't there? There's the one from Phyrexia. That's it, Phyrexia.
I'm sorry, I'm confused. Yeah, so
I'll explain to you one day.
You choose your free sacrifice outlet and play it. So that is our value black. Those are our value black cards.
Oh, wait. We've got to move on to the budget report.
Commander's Brew having an influence already on the podcast scene.
So if we add up Sean's top 5, we have a total of $14.37.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. Got to spend the spoils of Empire, sir. Got to spend the spoils of Empire.
We have $3.45.
Uh-oh.
Surely that can't be beaten.
And if we add up mine, we have $1.64. So I'm going to put an honorable mention. Planar Void. And this will be my message of the week for Phil. Planar Void. Single black. Enchantment. Whenever a card is put into a graveyard, remove that card from the game. It's not a replacement effect. Any triggers that have your stuff go to the graveyard, it still happens. Ha-ha! 34 cents, and I'm still under $2 with $1.98. Bam.
I gotta ask, why do you target me with these? Like, all these graveyard removal cards, it's not like I was abusing the graveyard first. Sean's Lazov is far more effective than any of my decks that use graveyard.
And
Sean's Lazov doesn't care
Sean
about
plays
Planar Void.
Lazov, I target Sean. But,
no, Lazov doesn't care about Planar Void because the creature still hits the graveyard before Lazov.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, but I mean, see this. But even your comments are hurtful, Nate. Hurtful. All right, so this week we have a couple of messages, and they are fans from YouTube. So thank you, YouTube fans. Who wants to read these out? Nate?
Felix Alric says, in response to Gary Merchant's Planeswalker Spark, Gary's toast was burning, so he rushed to take it out before it was too late. The toaster discharged as Gary touched it, giving him his spark. That's a pretty powerful toaster.
That is a powerful toaster.
That might explain how all of us are planeswalkers.
I think if any of us were hit by a spark from a toaster, we would be dead.
Well, how is it that all of us humans on Earth with playing cards are planeswalkers? It must be some kind of toaster-related achievement.
Oh,
unlocked.
Maybe it's static discharge from walking on a rug.
I got my spark when I was so angry at someone queue jumping once. I just, I'm going to write them an angry letter, and boom, Planeswalker.
Where am I now?
What? Why am I? Oh, what's your name? Yorgmoth, you say? Yorgmoth. Oh, how nice to meet you.
What a nice dimension you have.
Well, I think we can all thank Felix for sparking this conversation.
Yes.
Oh, dear Lord. What have I done?
What? Did you hear that, listeners? That was 2 viewers unsubscribing from our feed.
Yeah.
But Wilson Correa says, this is sad. You guys need more views and listeners. This is my favorite Commander's podcast.
Yay,
and he has
Wilson.
a smiley face. And all of those statements are true.
It's true. It is. We are sad.
Yeah, I think I think what we need to do is we need to ask our listeners to retweet our tweets, to share the videos we put up. This is an early segment of Phil Begs for Stuff, isn't it? Because all I seem to beg for is people to promote the podcast for us. But anyway, if you enjoy the podcast, of course, 5-star ratings, and just tell your friends.
I'll read this next one. The Untapped Step asks, could you do a deck tech on Mareki Reberit, please? Nate?
Yes. Yes, at some point we can. Yes, we can.
We've not done any sort of flat-out deck tech episodes other than our very first episode, actually, so we should probably do some more.
Yeah, I guess it's been 22 episodes since then, and
yeah, Mareki's a very nice one to do. We'll do it in the future, soon, maybe.
Yeah, indeed, we'll do the Mariaki, because it's such a painful deck, and I hate it.
And they both hate it. Whenever she comes out, they both of them. It's an arch enemy game.
Yeah,
they both learned.
Can I just have a quick word with Phil for a second, Nate? Don't listen to this.
Yeah, don't
Phil.
listen to this, Nate. Yeah,
Phil.
Okay, Sean.
Don't ever admit this to anyone because it would embarrass me so. The reason I hate it so much is I wish I'd thought of it myself. But don't let Nate know that because I don't want him to think that I look up to anything he does. We don't do anything with, congratulations in England. We like to keep people down.
Yes. No worries here.
Yeah, Nate, that deck sucks.
All right, Nate, you can start listening.
Huh?
Yeah. Mareki sucks. Don't ever play with it again.
Okay, I think that's those were great messages. Please, everybody, keep sending us messages on Twitter, on email. We are going to do, and of course in the comments for the YouTube videos, we are of course going to do a mailbag episode perhaps soon. So actually, just start commenting now, and we'll accumulate them and do one perhaps next week. That's what our topic will be. We'll see. So we love our listeners and our viewers. Have to remember that we're on YouTube. I keep forgetting. And of course we're on iTunes. You folks are a blast. You tell us what you think and you play test decks with us. You give us, you riff on some of the things we talk about and you give us ideas for new shows. It's wonderful. So please take the time to contact us. And if you really, really like us, give us a 5-star rating on iTunes. That was my radio voice just sort of creeping out. I don't have a radio voice. I was never on radio. But I guess if I were... That's what it would sound like. Radio? It makes us feel better and we can point to it and say, hey, look at that, to the people who care about such things.
Can I just try my old-timey radio voice?
Go ahead.
Our theme song was created by the podcast by Nate Burgess. Our logo was created for the podcast by Mr Picto.co.uk with assistance from Kelle DeLuca. Special thanks to our tech whizzes, Jessie, Thomson, and Graham Frank, what a chap. And to Justin for all his service space.
Wow.
How's that?
That was great. Nate, do you have a radio voice?
Extra. You can reach us by going to our website, commanderin.mtg.com. Our email is cast@commanderin.mtg.com. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, mtgcast.com, and Reddit and iTunes by searching for Commanderin MTG Podcast. Individually on Twitter, I'm at Mr. Plorg.
Well, thanks for asking me, Mr. Plorg. I'm at Copain26.
Why, thank you, Gustav.
Who the hell are you?
I'm Gustav the German.
And I'm at Ketjack on the Twitter.
Godspeed, listeners. Godspeed.
And that's
our show. Yeah!
Commanderin.
Yeah!